Happy Friday. Oh, we're looking a bit dark there.
Yeah.
Shall I try and move the light, or should we just stay here with the suntan? I might turn that light off and it might make this better. So hang in there, guys.
You'd have thought we'd have sorted that out, but
it's a bit hard to tell with Facebook Live, isn't it?
it's weird, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't really see it until you press the button, and then all you know, it's all over Red Rover. So, all right, welcome to Friday, and we're coming closer.
I feel like you guys are so
more.
far away from us.
A bit more intimate now.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't think we're as dark as we think we are, because that line is for chats. So if you've got a question, you might as well pop it in there. I'll actually be able to read it because you're that close now.
Yeah.
Anyway, Friday Night Live, and normally this is a Thursday. My work is a little different this week, so it's making a little bit of a challenge. Awesome challenge, but we had to move it to today. So it's going to be a short one, a sweet one, get you ready for the weekend. And our topic today is, are you living your true nature and purpose? Pretty important foundational premise to have, especially when you want to be creating the life you love. You actually have to live it in accordance with your true nature and purpose. And if you're not, things don't come together. So
we hear about it, like we hear people say, oh, you know, we're living our heart, we know what it is we love, and what is our true nature and purpose, that sort of thing. And that can be a difficult thing to answer sometimes. It seems like one of those crux things, and it is one of those crux things, but it's not always an easy thing to know the answer to. So I guess some of the ways that we can tell when we're living our true nature and purpose, so that we feel like we're living in a flow. We're not kind of stuck in our heads and working one thing out after another in a very linear fashion, but rather we kind of take a step back and have more of a broad view on a bigger picture sort of thing, and we live from that perspective more so in the heart, so allowing and letting go, and these can be tricky things, can't they, for us to do?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's it is actually our natural state, but it's not something that we've been in touch with since we were really little. And that's actually getting younger and younger, because at the moment it's like, well, you've got to get your kid into this lesson and that lesson and blah, blah, blah. And once upon a time, we didn't start any sort of lessons until we were sort of 5, 6, 7. Now it's like, you're 3, and why don't you speak 3 languages already? Sort of thing. So there's a lot of pressure to have that academic understanding, but not necessarily getting that in touch with what that heart feels like. So it does become a really tricky thing. And so it's like having a muscle you haven't used for a really long time. Imagine at the age of, or for us, when I started school at 5, having your arm taped to your body and not being able to use it up until recently, up until now. That arm's going to be pretty small and wasted and not have very much strength or coordination to it. So that makes it really hard to use. So this is really similar sort of alignment, getting back in touch with what is actually heart. And sometimes we even argue for our case being, it's coming from my heart, but it's still coming from our ego. So it's really important that if you want to get somewhere, you've got to be able to differentiate that for yourself. There's no point justifying not living your own true nature and purpose.
Yeah, and a good way to start to reconnect, because you're not learning new things. Like Linda's just said, we're already, it is our true nature and purpose. It's our essence. It's what we arrived here with. But pretty soon after, coming into this world, we start to forget who we are. We separate out. We become the ego and all that sort of thing. We've spoken about that in previous webinars. But one good way to start to reconnect with the heart is to start to do heart-orientated things. And usually these are creative things. They're things that you might have used to enjoy them at a younger age. They might have been things that you've written off now because you've left it behind, thinking, no, that was something I did when I was a kid, end of story. And you don't think anything more about it. It might be born of the imagination, it might be in that imaginative realm, and again you write it off because you think that that's all kid stuff, when in actual fact that's where your power lies, believe it or not. And if you can start to tap back in, so maybe it's remembering one or more of those things that you used to love to do as a kid, and see if you can tap into that in some sort of, to some degree now as an adult, and just see how that feels. Give it a fair go, and you may be quite surprised with what you find. But you've got to make the time to do it. You've got to again, get out of your head, and say, all right, well, I'll give this thing a go, see what they're talking about. It's pretty profound, isn't it, once you start to play in those realms again? And it is play, that's another attribute to it. It's not mechanical like we've come to, we're quite addicted to needing to know how things are supposed to be, and if we want something, how that's going to happen. This is more of an intuitive, creative, imaginative state that we put ourselves in by playing again.
Absolutely. So, and it could be something that you're now thinking, okay, what's creative, drawing, whatever, and it may not be that. So for some of you, that sort of thing will be something that you recall with fond memories, and for others of you, it might even be moving your body. So it might be running or some other form of exercise. Obviously, if we're trying to sort of tap into feeling of the heart, it's easier to get tapped into that if you're doing something more sort of on your own, in your own time. I would agree. I would agree with myself. I'd agree with myself about that.
Who wouldn't?
Because obviously one of the things I used to love to do when I was a kid was play basketball. And basketball's a team sport. And I did play it up, and I was playing in the old ladies teams not that long ago, a few years back now, but not that long ago. But it's not really quite the same because you're interacting and there's a lot of fast movement going on. I loved it, but it still wasn't quite allowing me to tap into the heart center. Whereas if I sat down to do some drawing or some painting or even craft, because I used to love doing that as a kid, that would be the type of thing that I go, yeah, that's the feeling. That's how I know that I'm actually communicating with my heart. And there's actually no reason why your whole life can't start to feel like that, because when you're in the flow or the zone, you can just be observing and you can be open and you can just see what comes along, and it's amazing what actually starts to unfold in front of you just because you're holding that space. I think you're actually more observant. I'm not thinking necessarily that things don't come when you're not in your heart space. I just think it's harder to see them and to know that it's appropriate for you. So and initially though, when you're getting started with this, it can feel like I'm wasting my time here. There's stuff I should be getting done. Like paying the bills and
all that really super important stuff. But it's so worth it. So it's about saying, no, all right, you may have noticed, you may feel stuck in one or more areas of your life. You may feel like life's a real push, it's a real struggle, and it's about shoving all the time and feeling like you're not really getting anywhere, or feeling like you're either overwhelmed or you're underwhelmed with life sort of thing. And these sorts of things, if you've arrived at that sort of place, then it's worth trying. It may well be that you've just found yourself stuck in your head. Let the heart go, and you've got no orientation from your creativity, and again, where your power is. So picking it back up again and giving it a go, and just being observant, like initially going, taking one step at a time, just with no expectation, but just, all right, I'm going to do this for a while and see what happens. And not just once. I went to the gym once, it never worked for me, so I didn't go back again.
Did you clean your teeth once?
Yeah, that's right. And that didn't work. So, so it's like, give it a fair go. Like, do it over a month's time or whatever, but, once a week even, or, if you can do it daily, better still. But you will start to observe things start to change, things will shift, and also things in your external experience will start to change as well. You won't necessarily join the dots, you won't necessarily connect that's because I'm doing some painting now. It'll be like, that's irrelevant. How can that possibly have created this thing, this cool thing that's come into my life? There's no connection at all. But that's the sort of thing that does happen as a result of you connecting back in with your power. Yeah.
And I think the other thing to really become aware of is, we need to actually know who we are. Because sometimes we kid ourselves on, we've formulated some sort of an idea of what life should be like for us based on what everybody else does, or our friends do, or our family does, or whatever. And we've spoken about that before as well. But if you actually dig in and look at your personality and what drives you and what's really important to you, and as much as it sounds silly, but some of those personality analysis things are actually really interesting to have a look at. So whether it's a disc analysis or an Enneagram or something like that, and you just have a look at it. It's not saying that you have to stay that way, because we can always change once we know we've got some consciousness, but it might give you some background of the types of things that are important to you at this point in time. All those analysis is just a snapshot. What's happening in my personality right now? Some of it is long founded and long standing, others probably more short term standing, but it doesn't really matter. It's just like, okay, at this point in time in my life, who am I? What is my true nature right now? And then that can help you to direct your focus as well. And then you're not going to be deviating too far away from it. And when you deviate from it, you know it's not right. You know, again, the ego will kick in and say, oh yeah, but, you know, if I stick with this, I'll get that. Or, no, I really want to look like XYZ person, and therefore, in order to do that, I have to do this. And there's all this how and figuring out, as you said as well. So it becomes very convoluted. It's not heart-based. It's not your true nature. It's just you tricking yourself that that's exactly what you want to do. There's no point trying to be a hustler if you are not a hustler. If you love being a hustler and you love the chase, do it. But if you don't, you need to find another way. And there's always another way to do whatever it is you're trying to achieve. If that's you, if that's what you're trying, if that is your true nature and your purpose, your means of serving in the world.
Starting to understand your true nature too gives you some direction. It's like working opposite to what you think. So you think, I want that, so I've got to do these things to get that. But once you understand a little bit more about your own true nature, you start to understand more about what it is you truly love in your life. And then it starts to bring you choice again. You know, you think you've got choice, but you can't have choice really until you understand your true nature and what it is you love and what life really truly is meant to be for you. And if you've only working out of the head or the ego, you think you've got choice, but it's not choice.
Well, most of the time we kid ourselves that we've got a choice, but it's actually a dilemma. It's either this or this, and both options are pretty shit, really. You know, it's like going to an election. Here in this country, we've usually got two major parties. One of them's going to win, and there's a nice description I won't use, but whoa, hello doggy.
There's our doorbell.
There's our doorbell. So, making a choice means that we're open. We're really just being able to see all 360 degrees around us. We can tap into all of our senses and we can become very acutely aware of what's available to us. A choice to me is almost limitless. There's just such a smorgasbord of things when I'm choosing what I want to do and where I want to go, and that is where the magic happens.
So in knowing that more about yourself, you might actually find, and more times than not you do, is that you reassess what you want in life. So it starts to change. It starts to shift from what you thought you wanted to what it is you love. And there's a big difference between wants and loves. And that's probably another topic altogether. But don't be surprised if when you start to undertake some of these heart-orientated experiences that what you thought you wanted no longer really holds much weight, and you find yourself reassessing that and going for something else, and that's a pretty normal thing that happens.
And it can be scary letting go of this idea that you've held on to for such a long time as an ideal, and you can actually almost have a grieving process for it as well. It's almost like there's a loss and there's a grieving and all that sort of stuff. But once you start to create and you start to realise that, well, you can always pick that up again if you choose, but it's a choice by choice, not a choice because you have to have something in that whole. So we might leave it there, Friday night, and next week we might try Wednesday. I won't make any promises, but we'll see how we go, because things are a bit shifted for the next few weeks as far as timetables and everything goes. So probably won't be here Thursday at 7. That would be very unusual if that was going to happen this next couple of weeks. But we look forward to serving you again in next week.
Yeah, during next week. Have an awesome weekend, guys. Thanks for following, and tap in next week. And always awesome to see questions popping up as well. So
feel free, if you see anything cool, contribute it to the group. We're happy to add anything in there that you think might be of an advantage to anybody else to learn from as well. So look forward to seeing anything you might have come across that was truly inspirational this week.
And if you had a crack at moving towards something that you think might be along the lines of your heart-orientated activity or experience. We'd love to hear what your experience was with that, what you found, even something you discovered that you'd completely forgotten about, and it seems really relevant to you now. So, let us know. It's always good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to get more of that info, come along in October, the retreat. It's starting to get heated up. 14th of October, 4 days of magic. By the time you leave, boy, you will be blown away. And seeing now our grads more than a month down the track, every day we're grateful for what we're seeing, aren't we? So it's
amazing.
Yeah, blow you away. Life will definitely change. It won't be a short flash in the pan. So see you in October.
Awesome. Bye.